All right. Hello, everyone. We're going to give it a little bit for people to come and join us. Thank you all. Hello out there. Hello out there. Just so you all know, we're streaming from multiple platforms. So if it looks like there's no one watching, trust, there's a little bit of everyone watching, y'all. So hello to everyone out there. Thank you for taking your time to be with us tonight to talk about something extremely important. And I have amazing guests on. So thank you all for tuning in. I'll give it just a few more seconds for you guys to join us. By all means, chime in, say hello. We have the lovely Takia who's running our social platform. So if you guys have any questions, any comments, we have somebody running that. So by all means, I'm getting text messages already. It says sales are over. The link to the Zoom on it. Just so you know, Takia, a few people are trying to get on. This doesn't have the link to the Zoom. Okay, let me tell her to. So I'm telling a few people just to jump on live. Just jump on social. Hello, hello. I think some people, so what's going on is a few people are now going into the link on Eventbrite and it's saying that it's closed. So I'm telling people just to come on in. All right, folks are joining. All right. Hello, hello. Thank you all for taking the time on this live. I am so excited, honored, just overwhelmed with joy to have my special guest that I do tonight. So for those of you that have no idea, like, who is this gal getting on this live? My name is Chrishon Lampley. I'm the owner, CEO, and negociant for Love Cork Screw. Love Cork Screw is a wine brand I launched in 2014. To date, over 3 million bottles sold were sold nationally, and I was the first African-American woman to ever go national with a wine brand out of the entire Midwest. So Love Cork Screw is a little bit of everywhere around the nation, and you all have been amazing supporters, fans, friends, buyers. I thank you all for everything you've ever done for the brand. And as you all know, we're more than just wine. This is a mission, and we're a mission for inclusion, for community, for purpose, and making wine inclusive and making it fun. So thank you all for that. Those of you also know or may not know, my maiden last name is Lampley, and I started the Lampley. I started that years back where we just had home goods, right? We had body sprays and room sprays, diffusers, soaps, and things. And fast forward to now, on February 15th, let me backtrack a little bit, February 15th of 2025, I lost my father. My father was not only a very powerful man, very strong man. He grew up here in the city of Chicago. For you Chicagoans, he grew up on 79th and Stony. So he was a South Sider, went on to be an extremely successful man. And he was head of supplier diversity and president of minority purchasing for Commonwealth Edison. So his job was to get Black and brown people contracts, and he did it. He made some people extremely successful, extremely wealthy, some construction companies, and he was always very, very big on supporting Black owned, supporting minority businesses, and pushing up anybody he possibly could to make them a success. He wasn't that successful in entrepreneurship. There was always something. He even, I remember saying to me, telling a story where one time someone came up to him with an idea to start a fast food business. It was called McDonald's. And he's like, that's not going to be a success. So understand, but he always went for it. right? He always was, if it didn't work, whether it was, now I'm showing my age, y'all, whether it was Amway, if you remember Amway products back in the day, like he was going to attempt to do it and try to make it work. And I watched him as a child, and it just made me more strong. It made me more anxious to get out there and have my own. Fast forward to now, and just so you know, literally, I have everything in me, and that was from Lou Lampley. And that's tenacity, goal, just audacity to even do what I do and be in an industry that doesn't look like me. But we're here today because when I lost him, I knew that it was time. It was time for me to launch the Lampley in a more effective way. At the time I launched, it was kind of like the angel company, as well as Love Cork Screw is the devil, right? Love Cork Screw is wine and fun and all these fun colors, and the Lampley is subdued and home and making things smell good, hibiscus and patchouli. And when he passed, I said, now it's time to also add strength. And the Lampley has always been a very strong last name. My husband said for me to keep my last name because it was so strong. And I said, now is the time. So when my father passed, I decided that portions of the proceeds from everything from the Lampley was going to go back to why my father passed. Mm-hmm. The death certificate stated he passed away from encephalopathy and thyroid disease. When the neurologist, before he passed, just kind of breezed by and said that to me, oh yeah, your father has encephalopathy. I said, he has what? And I had to write it down. And when I did the research on it, I was going down this rabbit hole and seeing so many different things. I saw CTE. I saw head injuries. There's just all these like keywords and things that I was seeing, but I was just confused. So when he passed and I saw that on the death certificate, I said, now's the time for me to really, really figure out what this is. I don't understand it. I'd heard about a few football players in the past having it, and that it wasn't diagnosed till after they passed, and I just didn't get what was going on. So this is why we are here. And I am about to introduce two amazing guests that I have, and I'm going to let them take it away and really introduce themselves so you guys can really understand who we have here and why this makes perfect sense. So I am going to first introduce Tanya Nelson. She is a highly accomplished registered nurse specializing in neonatal intensive care and clinical education. But you see, I'm here mixing my words already. So I want Tanya to come forward and I would have put you ahead right now. And please tell everyone out there about who you are and why we have you here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You did pretty good with those terminologies. So my clinical expertise is neonatal ICU. So in other words, premature babies, the smallest patients that we can get, and then also clinical education. And so currently I spend my time educating nurses and licensed and unlicensed staff, whoever touch a patient in the hospital setting. I work to train them and make sure that they are providing the very best care to patients that they encounter. I've done adults, the elderly. I've presented at conferences. I've published in a peer-reviewed publication, all the things. But what I'm really excited about is participating in this conversation because I have an own personal interest in expanding my knowledge about CTE. One of my loved ones, we suspect that he has CTE. And so I started my own personal journey of finding out what is CTE, what are these symptoms that he's experiencing, what does this mean, what does this all look like? And so I am excited to be part of this conversation tonight.
Thank you. We're so many questions, and I'm very, very excited. And secondly, we have Mike Martin. He is a former NFL player for the Cincinnati Bengals. So I am going to bring you to the forward of the stage. Mike, tell everyone about who you are.
Hello, everyone. Again, I am Mike Martin, former Cincinnati Bengal. I played back in the 80s. I know I look kind of young, but I played back in the 80s. And we went to the Super Bowl one year. I was injured. I didn't get to play, but that was a great experience for myself and my family. We, as you see, we are the owners of a NFL flag football league here in Chicago, as well as in Cincinnati. We run the league in the summertime in Cincinnati. We also, our family owns a smoothie bar and fitness facility that my daughter Morgan that she runs, and then we have a foundation. We lost our son in 2014 to a pulmonary embolism, and we created a foundation in his name where we give out college scholarships. We have free camps for kids, a lot of different things. But one of the main reasons why I'm here is because I want to make sure that I'm not developing CTE. And I've been to, got a chance to go see some doctors, and they showed me some things that really woke me up, made me see exactly what I need to see. So we're going to dive into some very interesting conversation with this because there's a lot to be shared.
Yes, and I'm very excited too, because as people, a lot of my friends out there that are watching, when I have these conversations with them, they're like, he had what? You know, when I say encephalopathy, and then I understood it originally as encephalopathy was kind of the broad stroke of it, and then CTE was a part of it. It's almost like the umbrella company, and these are pieces. So, Tanya, I would love for you to please define it for us the best you can, because I'm still confused. I'm still trying to understand this, and like I've told some people out there, I haven't even grieved yet because I don't get it. Mm-hmm. So we really want to hear. So please, if you can kind of break down what this is.
Yeah, absolutely. Great conversation. So CTE, it stands for Chronic Traumatic Encephalopathy. And what it is it's a progressive degenerative brain disease. And it's caused by repetitive head trauma, including concussions. Experts don't believe that it's related to a single head injury. It's that repetitive hits to the head. Right. And it's also associated with second impact syndrome. And what that means is that a second head injury occurs before symptoms from a previous head injury has an opportunity to heal. Right. And so it's that repetitive trauma to the head. And it could be a direct blow to the head, or it can be a blow to the body that causes the head to move in such a way that shakes the brain inside the skull. And so when the brain shakes inside the skull, depending on the motion of the head, the motion of the body, different parts of the brain is going to have impact on the skull. And so that's why symptoms of CTE vary so much, because it depends on where the area in the brain that's been injured, right? Now, with those repetitive head trauma, what's happening is the repeated head trauma triggers the accumulation of an abnormal tau protein in the brain. And that tau protein, if you are familiar with Alzheimer's, it's the same protein. However, it interacts, the buildup is different in CTE versus Alzheimer's. But that's the repetitive brain trauma triggers that accumulation of the tau protein. And what happens is that tau protein interferes with the brain cell function, and it leads to cell death. And so this happens because the injuries to the nerve cells that conduct the electrical impulses in our brain, they can't effectively communicate between the cells because that tau protein is causing that interference. And so that is essentially a high-level overview of what CTE is and kind of what the cause is and what's happening within the brain.
So and thank you for that, because again, I'm still trying to process this. And I'm sure any listeners out there, please, if you have any questions, please ask, because this is, it's so much. And I want to ask in relation to you, Mike. So you've gone many scans during your career.
Yes.
What did those scans reveal to you? Not just medically, but emotionally? And how did that information change the way you approached your health and your life after football?
Well, before I get to that, let me say this to all your viewers. If I start drifting off somewhere, please reel me back in because that's part of what I'm dealing with right now. Um, when uh, when I was told that I had spotting on my brain, it shook me up. It shook me up. I wanted to know, okay, so what does that mean? They showed me a picture of a brain that actually had CTE. It was white on the inside. I had spots of white. So basically, what they're saying is there's a possibility that those white spots may spread. And right now, I'm dealing with my short-term memory is terrible. I could tell you what I did when I was 5, which is amazing. But 20 minutes ago, I can barely remember what I was talking about.
Yeah.
And it's very scary. A lot of the different signs that pops up for me is um, quick-tempered. I've never been a quick-tempered person. Like the nicest guy you will ever meet, but sometimes I will snap real fast. And my wife has to reel me back in sometimes and I don't know where it's coming from. But after talking to the different doctors that I've talked to, and they were telling me, hey, right now, we don't know where you're headed. And that's the scary part for me. So I just try to do as much as I can. And honestly, at this point, I don't think they really know what to do.
And I want to touch on this. I'm going to take a 2-second pause. I know a lot of people are reaching out to me trying to get on. So for anyone watching out there, if you guys can share this, let people know. I believe that you guys can see us from, I think you're on Facebook, on the Love Cork Screw Facebook. I believe some of you are watching us from. So people are asking where they're streaming from. So if you have any friends that wanted to get on this and they're not seeing us, because I'm getting texts left and right, by all means, please let them know to go on to our LCS Facebook, and I believe they can see it there. So I want to definitely hit on what you just said, Mike, because that triggered me in my father. And maybe, Tanya, you can shed some light on it. So I remember about 3 months before he passed, I'm going to go a little further back. I'm going to go back to 10 years ago. My mom said they were dancing at her 75th birthday party, and my dad was in a good mood and everything was great. And she said she remembers saying something to him when they were on the dance floor, and he just whispered in her ears, "Shut up." Now, understand, if you knew my father, he would never, ever say that to her. Now, forward to a few months before he passed, he was hallucinating, and maybe I'm using the wrong word, but I remember being at the doctor and with them, and he said to me, "Chrishon, didn't we just get off a cruise?" Now, they hadn't been on a cruise in 12, 13 years. Then I remember at the hospital, the doctors were saying that at one point they had to strap him down because he was so aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
Also during this time, his thyroid was elevating. So I don't know if it was a mix. So if Tanya, you can touch on this, because like I said, what Mike just said got to me, because it was the mood changes that me and my family were seeing. And if you can touch on that, what does that really look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So the frustrating thing about CTE is that there's still so much we don't know about it. There's not a test you can take, right?
Right.
Definitive diagnosis does not occur until after the individual has passed away, and they analyze the brain on autopsy. So that's a very frustrating part about CTE, and the symptoms vary from person to person. So no two people are going to have the exact same clinical picture. So it's important to mention that. Now, because the symptoms vary based on the type of head injury that a person has experienced and overall history and things like that. That's why it's very important to have the right healthcare provider, right? A comprehensive medical exam, an extensive patient history with a qualified healthcare provider. That is going to make the biggest difference. So then that way you have someone who is well equipped to help you manage your symptoms. Now, Mike, it sounds like what you're experiencing, you're describing, unfortunately, symptoms with CTE, they're the same as other neurodegenerative symptoms. Conditions, right? So just because you have some of these symptoms doesn't necessarily automatically mean CTE. There's a lot of overlap, but so what you're describing does sound like some symptoms that's associated with CTE, and they're like those early initial symptoms that relate to mental health and behavioral issues. Some behavioral changes include impulsive behavior, erratic behavior, behaving in a way that you didn't normally. That's not usually your personality. Out of the blue, nothing necessarily provoked it, but now all of a sudden you're seeing aggression and agitation and impaired judgment. Those are some behavioral changes that some may see. And then there's also mood changes. So trouble sleeping. In my loved one, that was one of the first things I noticed. He would only sleep 4 hours at a time. And so
please, Tanya, I want you to touch on that. If you feel, I really want you to touch on that, because before we got on, for everybody knows, Tanya told me some interesting information about her family and what she's going through. So if you feel so inclined, I would love for you to touch on that.
This is not my clinical background, but my own personal interest. I started seeing my loved one played football, like pee-wee football, starting at the age of 5, played on the college level, short time on the practice squad in the pros. And he would tell stories of, he was a strong safety, so he played defense. And so he would describe how he would love running full speed headfirst into an opponent, and that feeling, that euphoria that would happen. And he would describe getting his bell rung. And I love the sport. I love football, but I was like, wait, that just sounds crazy. And the nurse in me would just cringe. I'm like, wait, you were describing head trauma, like having your bell rung. That is not normal. But then at that time in which you play football, that was kind of the measurement of whether you had a good game or not. Whether you played hard was, did you have your bell rung? And so I started noticing subtle things, trouble sleeping. He'd only sleep 4 hours at a time. Moodiness, mood changes. So that leads us into that mood changes thing. Depression. So never had a history of depression, but some days he'd be fine, and then other days he's just exhausted, don't want to get out of bed, very lethargic, in this depressive type state. Emotional instability. Those, again, erratic behavior, mood swings, suicidal thoughts and behavior. Substance misuse. So sometimes those who are experiencing this symptoms, they don't know what to do with it. And so then sometimes they turn to substances and misuse those. Now, that's not all of the symptoms, but those are just the early on initial symptoms that some may see in regards to mood and behavior. And then as it progresses, because remember, CTE is a progressive condition. And so then you started getting into those higher level functioning things. So cognitive impairment, trouble thinking. Sometimes you may hear people say, I know what I want to say, but I'm having trouble finding my words.
Yes.
Right. Subtle things like that, but it's consistent. Memory loss, particularly short-term memory loss, can recall stats and statistics from 20 years ago, but something from like 3 days ago, that's hard. Some overlapping in time. So, Chrishon, you talked about your dad would say, oh, we just went on a cruise. That was 12 years ago. There's that overlap with past memories and the present. Problems with planning, organizing, executing tasks. Sometimes that becomes that becomes difficult and challenging. And then you move into the more of the physical symptoms: trouble walking, trouble with balance, tripping, falling, slips and falls, some movements similar to Parkinson's. So the shaking, slow movement, trouble with speech.
You sound like you describing me.
Yeah, so these are just, but again, these are a wide range of symptoms, right? And again, there's so much we don't know about CTE, but yeah, it's complex.
You know what? Something you said about getting your bell rung. Basically, what that is it's a concussion.
Concussion. Yeah,
it's a concussion, and so I know. And I played for 7 years, and I played in college, in high school, in youth football. I know at least once or twice per game, I got my bell rung.
Yeah.
Per game.
Per game.
And so when they say, well, getting your bell rung, because, you get hit in the head and you're a tough guy. You got to go back in. I went back in football games when I couldn't see. Coach would come up and ask me, "Hey, Mike, you good?" "Yeah, I'm good, Coach." Put me back in.
Peripheral blindness.
Put me back in. And I was a punt returner. And so catching a punt out of the air and you can't see, but I figured out how to catch it.
Yeah.
And because I just saw something flickering coming towards me, and I was able to catch it. But those are some things that I've pretty much experienced all throughout my playing career. But here's the crazy part. I've been asked this a bunch of times. Would I do it all over? Yes, I would.
The nurse would. With that.
Yes, I would.
Yeah.
It would. It taught me so much about myself. And anybody that that plays football, that's what they would tell you. It will teach you so much about who you are as a person. But man, it's a dangerous job. It really is.
Chrishon, Mike mentioned, you'd have your bell rung a couple of times in the game, right?
Yes.
And that pulls us back to that second impact syndrome. You got your bell rung. That's a concussion, right? There's injury. You continue playing, you get hit again. That's that second impact syndrome where the injury from the first hit, you get in the second one before that first one even has a chance to heal.
Right. That's one of the reasons why now if they think you had a concussion, they're looking from upstairs. And they're looking down and they can tell somebody was just involved in a play. And if he gets up and he starts to wobble, they will call down to the referee, "Hey, take number 47 out the game. He doesn't look straight. Doesn't look like," and then they'll take him and put him in the tent. Now you won't go back in the game unless you can take care of all the tests that they're going to put you through. Back in the day, can you go? Yep. Put me in, coach. I'm ready to go. Now they will not. That doesn't happen. And but one thing I need to say this. Right now, the NFL is doing a incredible job with making sure that we are getting all the tests done. I just came back from Tulane about a month ago, and it was it's a brain and body examination. I was there for 3 days. When I tell you, they went from head to toe. Because they know that they messed up before. They know that. So now they want to make sure that they get it right. And I had doctors that sat right across from me, looked me square in my face, and he said, "I'm gonna tell you something that may bother you, but you have to know it. You got a lot of things going on right now. And you really need to straighten some of these things out. Some of the things we don't know if we can fix it, And so the thing is that once that happens, that shook me up. That really shook me up. And now I'm trying to do everything I can to take care of myself.
And you both made a point, and just so I understand, nowadays versus then, because I think about, my dad, he's the age that played with like Dick Butkus in high school, that age group. And we go from then to now. What do these medical professionals within those moments, what do they think is happening? Like, is this a known thing? And I'm asking, to either one of you or both of you, like, is it okay? You've been hit in the head. That's that he could develop encephalopathy. Like, where are we at with this? Do they know that this is actually leading to not having a long quality of life, a good quality of life after they play football? Or are they not caring just as long as, we have a great season, make billions? Where are we at with this when it comes to protecting these athletes?
Well, concussion and brain injury is a risk, right? You're playing a contact sport. There's a high level of risk, right? With boxers, there's a high level of risk. You're going to get hit, right? And so it's to play, like Mike says, he's starting to experience some symptoms. He's got imaging that says they're spotting on the brain. When asked if he would do it again, he says yes. And a lot of athletes and not just football players, but a lot of athletes who are at high risk for head injuries, they say the same thing. They would do it again. They know what they know about concussions now and CTE. That's not going to stop them from playing.
We have a comment in the chat that says, I heard that sometimes players will lay on the ground and act like they've hurt their legs or other parts so they don't get taken out of the game.
I haven't heard that one. I haven't heard that one because typically they will know if it's a head injury or not. If you've been hit in the head, they will know. So you can't fake that. You can tell them you can tell them you got leg cramps. You can tell them you messed up your whatever you want to say. When you stand up and you wobble, they know, okay, something's going on and it ain't just his legs. So I'm not sure about that one.
Yeah, you can't cut it. It's almost impossible to cover up a brain injury.
Right.
You have no control and your brain is like, I am injured, I am hurt, right? And so if you can't stand, you can't communicate, you can't talk, you can't say your name, you're disoriented, you don't know where you are, your eyes have rolled in the back of your head, you are not moving, you can't fake those things.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I'm sorry,
I'm laughing because that was me.
Because you experienced it.
That was me.
Yeah.
Yes, I watch. Sometimes I go on YouTube and watch old games. I saw myself get hit, and they showed in a slow motion, and my head was like a pinball, bouncing off everybody. And I sat there on the ground, and I laid there and I sat up. And when they carried me off, I mean, they literally had to hold me up and put me to the sideline. And I wound up going back in the game.
And that is so that was then, right? I hope you all are telling me that does not happen.
No, you can't do it now. There's not
protocols now, protocols, studies, research. Yeah, that is not allowed now.
Yeah, you're not doing that now. I don't care how bad you want to go back in. I don't care if you to start a team. If that doctor says nope, can't do it, you will sit on the sideline and watch.
And before I ask the next question, I just want to thank, I see everyone commenting, I see comments, I see people chiming in. And again, I just want to thank you all for tuning into this. We are going to be doing more of these. I'm honored to have these guests here talking about encephalopathy, CTE, an amazing nurse, an amazing NFL retiree. And this is just awesome to be able to have these conversations to talk about something that's not talked about. And I do want to ask a question outside of football. So my father, played, yes, in high school, but not since then. Is this possible that this is something that has been developing through the years? Is this possibly something that could have started affecting him 40 years ago? Or are we talking, okay, again, I remember my mom calling me and saying, your dad fell the other day. And then another time it happened just because he had, some back issues and just didn't have good balance. Okay, I think he hit his head. There were certain things. Now, yes, they went to the emergency room right away. He recovered, came back. At what point do we think that this could possibly have started taking over?
Well, that's when, a comprehensive medical exam and a thorough patient history becomes really, really important, right? And so some of those things, you said your father was 85. Some of those things could be part of the natural aging process, right? But I want to make sure that people know, to have CTE, you do not have to play professional football. You do not have to play contact sports at the professional level. High school students who play contact sports are having brain injuries. They're experiencing concussions. It does not have to be at the professional level that Mike played at. Want to make sure that, we mention that. Now, to answer your question, it could have been something developed over time, and there was just subtle, gradual symptoms. There's really no way of knowing, right? Without knowing a full history, when those symptoms started, how they progressed. Some researchers have said, in your 20s and 30s, you may start seeing some of those behavioral and mood changes, right? And then into your 60s, you may start seeing those more significant symptoms when it comes to your movement and Parkinson-like symptoms and more memory loss and things associated with dementia, right? But again, it's a progressive thing. It varies person by person, depending on their number of head injuries, how many they had, the type that they had, what the recovery process was, all of those things. So it is possible that it started. Well, it depends on when his first head injury was.
Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. No, please, Mike. Did you want to chime in?
No, I was saying she's absolutely right. I know you can be running down the street and trip and fall and hit your head. You probably ain't even playing any sports, but at a young age. But if stuff like that tends to keep happening, you're going to run into problems as you get older.
And this actually takes me to my next question for Tanya. So correct me if I'm wrong, there is no cure for CTE. What symptom management or lifestyle strategy have you seen make the biggest difference in quality of life for patients and caregivers?
Love that question. Before someone can start managing their symptoms or implement lifestyle strategies, I think it's very important for them to first do a self-assessment and look at, how do I view health? How do I want to manage my health, right? Do I want to follow traditional Western medicine practices? Do I want to do a holistic approach? Or do I want a combination of both, right? I think that's very important first, because that is going to drive the type of healthcare providers you seek out. And it's also important to have those conversations with your caregivers and your loved ones to ensure that everybody's on the same page. And so that way everyone can support each other and advocate for the right type of care. Now, symptom identification is really key because, again, there's no cure. And so the whole goal is to improve your quality of life by managing your symptoms, right? In my own personal experience, because the symptoms were so subtle, right? I found journaling to be an amazing starting point. Both for one, there's the mental health aspect that journaling is so beneficial because it helps you to process what you're experiencing and what you're observing happening with your loved one or within yourself. But then it also helped to identify symptoms, trends, and triggers, which triggers, symptom triggers is a whole nother conversation. But I found that to be a great starting point when looking at symptoms and could this be CTE and what does this mean and things like that. But getting into symptom management, because there's a wide range of symptoms, there's a wide range of strategies and lifestyle changes that can happen. So let's start with lifestyle and self-care. Brain stimulation. So if you think back to what's happening with CTE, there's that tau protein that's interfering with the brain cells interacting and communicating with each other, right? And so the brain is an amazing thing. It can create new neural pathways. And so brain stimulation type things, doing puzzles, reading, learning new skills, regardless of your age, you can always learn something new. Doing creative activities, all of those things will help build neural pathways. Having a structure and a routine, that has been shown to help. Develop daily schedules. We're all glued to our phones. Set reminders in your phone. Creating a stable environment, consistency, routines, that helps kind of decrease the cognitive load. A healthy diet. So research has shown that a Mediterranean-based diet has shown to be effective. A diet that's heavy in fruits and vegetables, lean proteins, not all proteins, lean proteins, fish, and omega-3s. There's been lots of research done about the diets, and what we eat affects our bodies not only physically, but also mentally as well. Regular exercise. I know some people don't like to hear this, but aerobic exercise can help. There's benefits for your mood and also your brain function. Good sleep hygiene. We hear it all the time. Don't be on your device before you go to bed. Don't have a TV in your room. All of these things. But having good sleep hygiene practices, a consistent bedtime that trains your body to, okay, it's almost my bedtime. Let me start shutting down and preparing my body to wash away the stress of the day, settle in for this restorative sleep that I'm about to get, right? Because when we are sleeping, our body kind of shuts down and it gives it an opportunity to heal itself. So good sleep hygiene, avoiding stimulants. So no caffeine late in the day, put your phone down, turn the TV off, natural light. I know we love to have like blackout curtains in our room, in our bedroom, so that way everything's nice and dark. Right. But the best way to wake up is by natural sunlight.
Right.
So natural light exposure is really good. And then having those relaxing routines. So it gives your body a time to decompress from the day and get prepared for that restorative sleep. Social connections. So maintaining relationships and seeking support. There's so much evidence in the literature about having a good support system. So that's why I mentioned having conversations with your caregivers and your loved ones about how you want to manage your symptoms. That's going to be really important. So that way you don't feel isolated, because isolation is going to lead to feelings of depression and those mood changes and things like that. And those can be triggers to some of those symptoms. Medications. So of course, under a physician's guidance, there are different types of categories of medications that one can have depending on their symptoms. So if they're having cognitive issues like memory loss and things like that, there are some Alzheimer's medications and some post-concussion syndrome medications that a doctor can prescribe. When it comes to mood and behavioral changes, antidepressants, anxiety medications, moods for agitation, things like that. If sleep is an issue, melatonin, other sleep aids, things like that. And then, again, symptoms are very complex, right? And so there are a variety of therapeutic interventions that can happen, different types of therapy. So cognitive therapy, obviously, exercises for memory, attention, problem solving. There's behavioral therapy, techniques to help cope with depression, the mood swings, impulsivity, agitation. There's therapy, and therapists specialize in that. For patients who are experiencing like those movement symptoms, there's physical therapy that can help with movement and balance and those motor symptoms. occupational therapy for if patients are having a hard time doing like activities of daily living, brushing their teeth, showering, dressing themselves. In those more advanced stages, there's occupational therapy can assist with that. Speech and language therapy for memory and speech, eating and drinking difficulties. Again, those are some therapy options for the more advanced symptoms. What I personally love too is holistic, and so I fall somewhere in between traditional Western medicine and holistic, right? So I actually became certified as a health and wellness nurse coach to help patients adopt healthy lifestyles and things like that, and pull in some holistic things. Yoga, meditation, those have all been shown to help with cognitive things. Essential oils. I never knew anything about essential oils until I started diving into educating myself about CTE. That was one of the first strategies I did in trying to help my loved one with the sleep. And so there's a wide variety of different type of strategies and lifestyle changes and things that individuals can do. It's not a one size fits all. It just comes down to how you want to approach your healthcare and then finding the right healthcare provider to help guide you through that.
And Mike, anything that Tanya said, do you feel that you've been practicing these things? And the part two of the question is, what is the most misunderstood part of living with or around this disease, especially when it comes to your family and loved ones? Because there's, I feel like there was a part sometimes that I would see of my father that, because when he would come into the person he was in that moment, I feel almost like he was apologizing for, what just happened. Because it just wasn't him. And it's almost like I saw in his eyes. So what can you say to loved ones and family members out there? Because what I wish I could have said to him was, Dad, what's going on? Like, talk to me. But my dad was a very stubborn man, of course, too. So is there any, like when things happen, what can you say to loved ones like myself? Because we don't get it. We don't understand what you're going through.
Well, one of the things is that you definitely have to have patience with the person, because my wife and my daughter, if we're having a discussion and I'll say something, but then somebody interrupt and try to get that point across, the other one would say, "Oh, let Mike finish," because he may not remember. And so that's been like, they start to understand exactly what you need to do in order to keep from getting frustrated. Because a lot of times that's what happens. My wife has been almost like my Uber driver, because sometimes I just get lost and I can really get frustrated about that. And she will say, "Hey, don't worry about it. I got you. Wherever you need to go, I'll take you." So anybody that's dealing with someone who is has issues that's going on right now, man, just be patient with them, but talk. Try to figure out how to get them to open up and tell you, "I'm not right." And I'm looking in this camera and I'm telling my guys right now, because women are good with this. Guys, you know your body. Man, if it's telling you something that's wrong, go get it checked. Go try to figure out what's going on. You may not get all the answers, but at least you'll get an understanding. Like I said before, when that doctor looked at me and told me I had stuff going on, I'm like, okay, you don't have to tell me once. And now I'm gonna figure it out. But just have patience, because if you don't, you're gonna be dealing with a whole lot of headaches.
And I actually have, this is the last question, kind of the same question for you, Tanya, of just what's like the one thing that you wish that every caregiver or loved one of someone with CTE actually understood? Because there's this frustration that there's a guilt that I feel. Because there's a lot of times I thought about like, that's not my dad. He wouldn't act this way. But then I would get mad at him for being that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would have to catch myself like that, because that's not him. How can I? So there would be certain ways he would be talking to my mom, and I would get so frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had to peel back, right? Because I'm trying to protect them both. Yeah. But it was just so hard to see such an eloquent and strong man
behave differently. Yeah.
What can you tell us if there was just one thing? Like,
Lord, I don't know if I can just do one thing. I was a little triggered by what Mike said about how, if he's talking and someone interjects, and how his wife steps in and says, let him finish the sentence. That I did the same thing with my loved one. The kids would interrupt them like, wait. What, to answer your question, I can't say one thing. If I have to narrow it down to one thing, everybody needs support. Not just the individual who is experiencing the symptoms, not just the caregiver, not just the spouse, the loved ones, the kids. Everybody needs support in their own way. And if everyone does not get their own support, then they're not going to be able to support their loved one in a passionate and empathetic way, right? It's easy for them when they're getting agitated and they're getting frustrated. Sometimes we want to respond and be like, well, why are you acting like that? But there is a lot of things are not within their control. And so we have to have some compassion and some empathy, but then also recognize that, yes, they are experiencing those symptoms, but so are we with them, right? And yes. So everybody needs support. That initial evaluation, ongoing evaluation. So it's not like you go to one doctor one time and then they say, okay, this is what we think, right? And then that's the end of it. That is just the beginning, right? And so that initial evaluation, ongoing management of the symptoms, because again, remember, this is a progressive disease. And so symptoms are just going to continue to add up and get worse. And so you're going to need ongoing medical care and management, medication management, all of the things to manage the symptoms. That's going to be very important. So it's really important to get in early with a qualified, competent healthcare provider. Y'all are entering into a relationship, and y'all in it for the long haul. And so it's important to ensure that everybody is being supported, right? I have no affiliation with any organization or institution, financial or otherwise, but in my own journey of learning more about CTE, I found some really great resources out there that have amazing things for not only the individual experiencing symptoms, but for also their caregiver and their loved ones. So I'd love to share that if we have time. Boston University, they have a robust library of resources for families, and it's for everybody in the family. It's important to note that Boston University is also doing research for CTE, and they're doing research. They have a brain bank. So anyone who suspects, I may have CTE, they can pledge to donate their brain after they pass in the name of science. So that is amazing. They're also doing live studies. If you're experiencing symptoms, you can volunteer, you can look and see what research opportunities they have going on, and you can participate in the research studies. So Boston U, they have a great things. The Concussion Legacy Foundation, I don't want to say this is my favorite, but I find myself going back to them a lot. They have a helpline to provide personalized support for a loved one or the patient or the individual experiencing the symptoms. One of my favorite thing is that they have a search tool that can help you locate a qualified healthcare provider in your area. And so if you're thinking, okay, I have these symptoms and I need to see somebody, but I have nowhere to start. I don't know where to start. They have a tool. You can go on there, type in your zip code, and they will help you locate a qualified healthcare professional that specializes in CTE and traumatic brain injury. And then they also have various support groups that individuals and their loved ones and their families can sign up for and participate in. The Mayo Clinic also has traumatic brain injury support groups. These are all free resources, right? One that I recently discovered is the Brain Injury Association of America. They have a resource database that covers a lot of different topics ranging from caregiving. They even talk about lifestyle changes and how to manage your symptoms, to new research initiatives that's happening with CTE and traumatic brain injury. So there's a lot of great resources out there, and it's not just limited to the individual who's experiencing these symptoms, but for the whole family. And so those are some great resources, but it's important for everyone to know everyone needs support because it affects everybody.
No, thank you for all those
it's 7:55. Just want to let y'all know.
Oh yes, 55. Yes,
55, yes.
Your son. Yes. And I just want to say thank you for all those resources. And if it's okay with you, I'm going to make sure I get those from you. And of course, to tell everyone listening out there, I'm going to share those resources on this platform. And Mike, any last words for you before we close this out soon?
Well, I just want everyone to know that because they can't do anything with CTE while you're living, and they pretty much examine your brain once you're gone. That's why a lot of former athletes that were having symptoms of CTE when they committed suicide, they either shot themselves in the chest or somewhere where they wanted their brain to be examined. And I'm just hoping that they can, do a study or do something that can work on guys right now, because I'm somebody, I hope they live a long life, a long, clean life, but I'm hoping that I don't go downhill real fast, because year by year, I see things happening to me that is showing signs and symptoms. And I don't want to live like that.
Mike, Boston U they have ongoing research. And so they're doing it with high school level athletes to all the way to professional athletes, not just football, but boxing, motocross, skiing. There's different criteria. So I encourage you to check that out and be part of expanding the knowledge of what we know.
Yeah.
I cannot thank you all enough for doing this. And I swear I have like 10 million more questions. So if you guys may get
part two.
Yes, for real. And I just see a lot of people that stayed on this, so I know they have questions as well. So I would be honored, and I would check your schedules if I could reach out to you guys to definitely do a part two, because I think there's so many questions that I'm getting from people that don't know if their loved ones have CTE, have encephalopathy. They don't know what it is, but a lot of these symptoms that you guys named, people were hitting me up like, oh my gosh, like yes, that's it. Like, so I think there's still so much confusion, and that's why I'm doing this, and that's why we need to build awareness and figure out what this is.
Yeah.
And it's just. So I just want to say it's an honor. I thank you. And if you guys can stick around, I'm just going to close it out and say to everyone out there, I'm not there yet. And when I say that, I have not fully grieved. I don't know how to feel. I don't know how to act. My dad hasn't even been gone a year yet. And I don't know if I've gone through any of the stages of grief. But what I do know is that I have to find out why he had that on his death certificate. I have to find out why the most amazing, most intelligent, most sincere, strongest man I ever knew in my entire life had to die that way. And I don't get it. So I am not going to stop until I find out more about CTE awareness, more about this big, scary word encephalopathy. Why? And I just want you all to know out there, thank you. When my father passed, so many of you reached out to me, and just know, it seems like I'm in this cocoon, but I don't know how to feel yet. I've always been so strong and held things in, and I'm my dad's child. So I always have a smile on my face, but inside, I don't know how to feel. But I just want to thank you all for tuning in. We're going to be doing so much more, from events. We did an amazing event at Park Manor, 75, raising money. Thank you all. You guys were buying candles and diffusers, and I'm rocking one of the shirts that we sold that raised money. It's the Lampley, which is an awesome shirt. We have hoodies. There's just so many things you guys can do to help raise funds. I also have a I Fund Women page. If you guys are so inclined to donate to that page, again, we are giving back money to CTE awareness. And let's say you just want to put a nice diffuser in your home, candle. If you go on the lampley.com, portions of the proceeds are going back to CTE awareness. We will start listing the particular organizations. And actually, Tanya has helped me find some organizations that I'm going to end up donating to. So we're still looking, right? Because this is something that's not talked about until we see a famous football player commit suicide. Like, why aren't we talking about this? So I just want to thank you all. Thank you for your time. And I hope you share, tell everyone, and follow Love Cork Screw, follow the Lampley. And again, blessings to you all and big hugs, and everyone have a good evening. Thank you.
Bye-bye.